Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a February. That's right. We're 11, like 1 month into the year, plus a couple days. February edition. It's actually a February 6th edition of the MSP Initiative, MSP Talk. Um, get some housekeeping out of the way, and then we'll get into the good stuff as usual. MSPinitiative.com. This session and every other session we've ever done has been recorded in audio and video format. You will find that here under the sessions tab or in your podcatcher or on YouTube. So you choose which platform is best for you. We have two MSP Community Minds events. These are absolutely educational events for the community. We do MSP panels. We do expert workshops that, span several hours where you walk out with something tangible rather than just a PowerPoint presentation. So MSP Community Minds should be in two venues. One is in Nashville, April 17th and 18th, and one will be in Denver, July 24th, 25th. Absolutely free for MSP to register and join us other than getting there, right? Like the logistics of, being at the event and getting to the event. But there's no $4.99, $9.99, $15.99 registration fee. It is free. So please join us. It went really well last year, so we're doing two this year. Then we have our community block parties, after parties, nighttime activities, whatever you want to call it. I always call these a labor of love, but man, they're so cool. We really love doing these. So you'll see a whole list of all of the parties we have planned for this year. Some, obviously some here in the US, one definitely in Europe, one definitely in Australia. So we are going international on both sides this year. Looking forward to it. Then we have our communities offers page. These are just deals and hookups from around the industry if you want to take advantage. And lastly, our industry calendar, which we try and constantly keep up to date. This goes all the way till the end of the year. There's like between 250 and 300 events already in the calendar. I'm sure this will grow. Go check it out. If you really wanted to be on the road, like myself and some of the people that I work with, apparently, you could very well be on the road all year. Although I do recommend some breaks in between. That being said, I bring our good friend Brian back from Quotewerks. Brian, we both have the beach background. I always talk about my Eagles on here one way or another. Well, the NFL has announced at the Super Bowl that, or this, during like media time at the Super Bowl, that the first international game of this upcoming season in September, first week of the NFL season, will be Eagles playing in Brazil.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
So we were just reading up on all things Brazil, and I thought traffic was bad here in the U.S. Apparently, not much compared to down there. But and apparently there'll be, obviously wintertime down there, so not exactly beach season. But I digress. I might find my way down to the at least one of the Fast and Furious movies was based there. So yeah, we'll retrace the steps, I guess. How
Very
you doing?
nice. Doing very well, thank you. Getting into 2024.
Yeah. Have you finished like doing the typo of 23 versus 24? Like, is that out of the system?
Well, the second week of January we do employee reviews, so there's lots of signing of dates. So that's the easiest way for me to get that knocked out of my system.
Yeah, no, I get that. I actually just went through a similar exercise myself, but we've now digitized all of that, right? So like I
Yep.
just put in the information, press send, and it does all the dates for me. So, modern technology these days. But no, I mean, listen, end of the year, beginning of the year is always a good time to do those, by the way, right? Just like
Yep.
automatic. I actually did one for like somebody who joined us in December, and I was like, yeah, keep doing what you're doing. Everything's great.
Yeah,
Nothing.
we had the same thing. Somebody that started in November, and it's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I was like, you're doing fine. Nothing to report. All is good. So that was funny. But anyway, it is a new year.
Yep.
And I know a lot of people thought last year was going to kind of, go down a little bit towards the middle and end. And I'm sure you see the numbers of all the things that have been quoted.
Sort
Uh,
of at a very high level, aggregate level, yes.
I assume the numbers didn't go down, Brian. They probably
Yeah.
went up.
Yeah, definitely. The volume has definitely increased, and surprisingly, the hardware sales are still going strong. Which I don't know. I remember 10 years ago when they said hardware was dead.
You still need something to type into, no? Like at some point that you can't like disappear that. No offense to the Apple Vision Pro. I'm not, with the virtual keyboard in the freaking screen. I like a physical keyboard, Brian. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
old school or not, but
I don't think that's old school at all. And
yeah.
by the way, with the Vision Pro, you can still use a keyboard.
Oh, is that right? I haven't
Yeah.
even played. I saw somebody on a clip in a subway in New York, and he was like working
Yeah.
on the subway like this, like virtually, and I was like, okay, all right. And then I also saw somebody has also already been pulled over driving their Tesla with the goggles on. And I'm like,
Oh,
we knew that was coming.
yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. I just, could you imagine? Remember, it was like a Bruce Willis movie called Surrogates,
mhm.
where like everybody never leaves their house. They have like robot versions of themselves. And then like, like they're controlling the robots. And like, I hope that doesn't turn out to be what happens here, right? Like, I don't
No,
know.
no. I mean, the good thing is this is like the worst possible release that they'll ever have of this thing. So like the next ones, I mean, they're gonna be just glasses,
What
in
happened
the
to
future.
Google Glass? That was all the rage for a minute.
Yeah, yeah. It was a cool gimmick.
It was an expensive gimmick. It wasn't cheap. It was like $1,500 to start.
It's still half the price of the Apple one.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, have you ever gone to Disney, like Disney Springs, where like they put like, it's like a virtual thing, it's like a Star Wars or an Avengers, and like they basically strap a computer to your back in the form of a backpack. But like,
Yep.
it's kind of impressive they got this thing into like just a wearable headset.
Yeah, unfortunately that closed down.
They did?
Yeah, at
Wow,
that location. Yeah.
that was cool.
That was very cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
Alec was really talking about it, so I had to do it after an IT Nation one time. George, you there?
Sorry about that. I'm back.
All right.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. I really enjoyed it. That's a shame that it went down, but I'm sure
Yeah.
Disney pops up stuff all the time. I haven't been to the Star Wars stuff yet, but
Yeah.
yeah, you just got to be ready for that Disney crowd,
That's true.
I mean, you
Well,
probably have like a season pass. You live down there.
and I have a 12-year-old daughter, so yes.
There it is. Like, we laugh about the the season pass for like, the amusement park, right?
Right.
You got a whole world of amusement parks.
Exactly.
Yeah. So moving it, so hardware is still a thing.
Yep.
Okay, check.
Definitely still a thing.
What do you feel like? Because again, you're seeing numbers at macro. What's the breakout between subscription or software-based services and hardware-based services? What do you think the percentage is based on the math?
See, the thing is, for us, it's going to be a little bit different to compare as for a whole industry because our bread and butter are our integrations with distributors.
Yeah.
So that's where we're seeing a lot more. So I'd hate to give a number because it's definitely not going to be industry wide. We've got, some people that need very basic quoting that, can use like Autotask to create their quote, and that's not our market. We need the ones that need like a full solution, and so it's a little bit different as far as who our customer is versus just the
Oh,
traditional
but
services.
hold on. You say that sentence, but you know what these people are doing. They go to Amazon. They go into, they're Googling around. They try and, figure out
Yep,
whatever it is, and they're just handwriting it in there, man. Like that's what's
that's
happening.
true. That's true. Or they just they don't sell it at all because there's no margin on it. So
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Like, are we, I wonder if the industry's gone out of, I just need to touch everything so I can make anything on it rather than just like, hey, just go buy it over here. Let me know when it shows up because it's not worth my time.
well, I mean, I think that, that was definitely a trend for a while, because, it was kind of one of those, here are the three things that we say that you can buy. I'm not going to make anything off of it, so you go ahead and do it. But now it's kind of like, well, wait a minute. Now they're going to start going to over to these other places to buy other things too that I also sell. So it's kind of one of those, you want to be that trusted advisor that's going to do everything for them. So that's kind of the thing that I think the pendulum keeps swinging back and forth, and I think right now we're coming back to being that one-stop shop again, which is good.
Yeah, that's interesting. Um, it's funny because I was just, you always scroll the forums waiting for the traffic accident online, right? And you know where. And somebody was like, "What's the purpose of a SaaS distributor?" And I'm like, Well, when you got 100+ options that have no boxes attached to it, that's the purpose, right?
Exactly.
Like, so are you going to go to each vendor separately and sign up and figure it out? Like, that's the whole point.
For each one of your customers.
Right, right. So I think that it's interesting that, you know, I feel like the players, other than like Ingram and Tech, or what was it, Cinex and Tech Data
TD
merging,
Cynics. Yep.
yeah, like the players are pretty much still the same. No, I mean, you know,
Well, well, and then you've got PAX 8.
yeah, they're the big man on the block, and then
Yeah.
you got TD Cinex, and then you got like some smaller guys. But like at the end of the day, there's like half dozen guys that are like really popular in MSP land. Like, does your platform tie into all those guys?
At this point, we do, except for one, which will be coming very soon. There's been a lot of requests for it. So I mean, that's integrations are really our bread and butter.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the thing that we are always looking at adding. So like we're adding a new PSA integration soon. We're adding a new distributor integration. I mean, it's nonstop for us on the
Yeah, I
go.
mean, like I swear integrate, like, integrations at an IT Nation 10 years ago, right? Everybody heard the word integration. It's like, what does the integration actually do? But I digress. I think, one of the things that I think you guys have done a pretty good job of, because there's just so many different ways that people have put this together, right? Whether they, are doing it old school or new school, is like, hey, I need to get real world information, real world inventory. I need to get a good looking something out of my mailbox that my customer can accept. I need them to like accept any of the terms that are associated with whatever I'm trying to sell. Oh, and by the way, I would love to collect some sort of payment on this all in one shot.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh, and also make it so it's affordable and that anybody can use it as well.
Well, the affordability part is, well, if I can't afford it, I just don't do it, right? And then people forget the fact that their time costs money. Let's be honest, right?
Right.
Like you sell that Dell computer and you made $10, or $50 or $25, and it's like by the time you finish an hour trying to create a proposal, it's like I lost my shirt already. Like, why am I doing this, right? So
Exactly.
that, like, affordable is good. Time saving, I think, is even more important, because that's where you're gonna, burn, right? In the end,
Right.
it needs to look professional. I think that's one of the things that people have like kind of skimped out on, right? Like, or maybe they'll go to like a Panda doc or some simple, something on there, but like, and it needs to look professional, but it needs to also contain the right information that I need, right?
Right. And the other thing too is not only are you have to get out of the mindset of like that traditional like proposal that you physically hand to somebody where it's a static document, because it's no longer that static document anymore, because you want to be able to give them that upsell option without having to do all these different revisions. So you could say, hey, you can have this option, but if for a little bit more, you can also have this, this, and this. And then the cool thing about it is you can have a video associated with that, with you telling the customer why it's important that they go with that upsell. And they have the ability to select those different options. You can do good, better, best, or option A or option B as well, which is nice.
Yeah. I mean, so like one of the things that I always hear people struggle with at every level, right, is like the amount of time salespeople need to spend to create something, right, and send it out. And if anything, almost slows down the buying workflow, right? Like
Right.
because you're waiting and waiting to push something out, or maybe there's a lot of calls in your schedule and you have to somehow sneak stuff in between. And like that's kind of one of the reasons that there's always been this, we've always heard for years, oh, if you didn't put it in the system, then it doesn't exist. It was like, well,
Yeah.
you're also fighting the salespeople from actually putting stuff into the CRM and getting quotes out. Like it just, it's what is one of the things we struggle with, right?
Right.
Professional organization. So, I would think that the easier you can make it for like the lowest person on the food chain, the better it'll be adopted. No.
Right. And the way that people do it with Quotewerks, or even some of our competitors, is they template it, because 90% of the quotes that you're doing, they're going to be very similar. And even if they're not, you could go ahead and put the world on that template with each different section. You can change your quantities and then click on a button and remove everything that you're not actually selling. And look at that, you got a quote in minutes, as opposed to having to search, oh, what kind of laptop do I want to add? And then narrow down from there. And oh yeah, guess what? It's not in stock anymore. So I guess I can't quote that one. So, you can make it so it's a lot easier in that whole process by giving all the options that you do support, and then the sales rep can, select which ones they want, and then magically put out a very nice looking document for the customer.
Yeah, I like it's the eyeball test, right?
Yeah,
Like it just, like if it looks cheesy, it just looks bad, right? It's like, you got to have a little bit of polish to it.
exactly. And that's why we have the pictures that are automatically included, the videos, the spec sheets. You have that professional document as opposed to something that looks like it just came out of Word, or Excel.
Well, both, right? I mean,
Exactly.
combination of both.
A really bad merge.
Yeah. And that's part of the problem, right? It took too much time, so people didn't want to go and find that. So the fact that it's being automatically collected is awesome. Yeah, I
But
know.
and then I was going to say, and then going back to what you were saying about it, putting it back into the CRM or PSA, we're automatically retrieving the contact information. So you're not going to have to, type anything out. We're going to go ahead and automate the creation of the opportunity or updating that opportunity. And anytime anything changes, that opportunity is a live updated as well. So you don't have any lag time as far as knowing what's out there, and the sales rep isn't going to forget to do it. And they're not going to, dread doing the update. I think that's the right word to use on this platform.
Yeah, it's funny, right? Like I think people started to get to the idea of potentially creating forecasts and pipelines and trying to figure out like, hey, where do things sit? What are my active opportunities versus things that are further out?
Yep.
Like everybody says they can do these things, but if you don't put the right information in, you're basically running it out of the system on Excel anyway, and then it creates a mess and you're just using multiple systems that don't talk anyway. So
Yep.
like that's where things start to break down. It's just, it's absolutely, I was talking to a guy at a peer group here. And it's absolutely amazing. Like people find the convenience of Amazon like just so simple, right? You can buy it and quit, even if they're paying extra as the person reselling.
Mm-hmm.
Like they feel like, oh, I can just click two buttons and go, and like they don't go through the distribution process because they feel like that slows them down. Have you heard that before?
We have, but usually when we hear problems with Amazon or why people go with Amazon, it has to do more with the margins that they're not making through distribution, and it's so negligible that it's it's silly. But so that's why we have an integration with both Amazon and Amazon Business, so they can actually see the pricing right next to Amazon Business with TD Synnex, D&H, Ingram, all of that in one place, so they can actually see what the price would be, and it's a single search for any of them as well.
That's awesome. I mean, basically just makes your life easier, right? Brings it all together.
Exactly.
So hopefully like this takes the whole like what it was like one person in the entire organization was the person creating the quotes, and it was usually like the founder, owner, or like guy who started it or girl who
Yep.
started. And like the reason they did that was that it was so complex, right? To go out and get all the right information, they couldn't like delegate it down.
Right.
Sounds like this makes it a bit Fisher Price.
Exactly. And like I said before, you can template it. You can also do a workflow as well, where you can, basically say, hey, I've got 5 workstations. Well, if you're doing 5 workstations, then these are the 5 that we would recommend. And then, based on those selections, oh yeah, you need antivirus, you need this, you need that, you need, it basically builds the whole process through a workflow. So it does, as you put it, Fisher Price it.
Well, and it also prevents you from forgetting something too, right?
That's true too. Exactly.
It's like, oh, wait a minute, I didn't realize, or especially things that like require other things, right? It's like, oh, well, in order to do this, you need to buy this first. And like, think of like an Office 365 SKU, right?
Yep.
Hey, you need this base license in order to add another license on top, is like my example, right? And so if you sell something and you forget to add it, then all of a sudden, you have to go back and do a little crow, you know what I mean? And be like,
Exactly.
oh, I'm sorry, I misquoted this. I got to resend it to you. And then you know how it goes from there.
Exactly. And that's why we have the ability to put in required items as well. So if you add one item, it automatically adds the other ones to the quote as well.
Yeah.
If you put in the time, you can really put out a foolproof solution for your sales reps.
That's awesome. Oh, and then the other part is like, hey, just real time, right? Like, hey, if like I left early, or you're working with someone, they call me, now I'm fielding the call, and like you don't want to have to restart the conversation over and over again because you slow down your buying process, right? The sales process.
Exactly.
Like, if you talk to like the really pro salespeople out there, the more steps you take out of the process and the less friction you put into what it takes to get from I'm interested to I'm buying, it does change the percentage of you closing the deal pretty significantly.
Definitely. Yeah. And I mean, sometimes it's just as simple as getting the quote out before your competitor does. I mean,
Right?
sometimes that's all it takes. And then from there, it's, getting, knowing when to strike as well. That's one of the benefits of having that electronic quote as opposed to, that traditional PDF that you're emailing, because the first time the person is looking at the quote, each additional time they're looking at it, as they're selecting different options, and then when they accept and pay as well. So you can decide when you want to follow up with that lead as well.
That's awesome. And then you can also figure out how often they're opening the damn thing, right? Like, hey, did
Exactly.
you even see it? Like, did you even open this thing? Why didn't what yeah, forget the signing part. You didn't even review it.
Well, and so we actually have a reminder feature that's built in.
Hmm.
So it will automatic say you send a quote to a customer on Friday and it's been a week, it'll automatically follow up with the customer and say, "Hey, we sent you this quote last week. Have you had a chance to take a look at it?" Knowing that they haven't looked at it yet. And then you can also have it automatically follow up with the sales rep as well, so that the sales rep knows to follow up with the customer that they haven't seen it as well.
What's I was going to say, other than mistakes, the second biggest thing that people complain about when it comes to salespeople is they don't follow up when they're supposed to, right? They forget where
Exactly.
they to, or they took too long. And like, this comes back to the Fisher Price thing, right? It's like, hey, can we try and make it so easy that these people can't forget? And that's what you just
Exactly.
told me.
Exactly. Well, and it's not just, the forgetting to, have the customer look at it and following up with the customer, but say that they have signed. You're lucky enough that they did sign. Have they paid you yet? Have they given you your down payment? So we have the ability to add that type of reminder functionality built into it as well. So that way it kind of just walks the salesperson through the process all the way through procurement as well, which by the way, we do that too.
Okay, so hold on a second. This just keeps getting better. All right. So not only do we remind somebody without human intervention, hey, did you look at this quote? And are you going to do it? Then it's like, oh, by the way, hey, you need to pay because like signing's great, but no money, no solution, right?
Right.
And then you're telling me, all right, we're collecting money, and then you're telling me that it's going to go and order the stuff for me.
Exactly. Exactly. And not only is it going to be able to place the order with, your traditional, distribution sources, but we're also going to work with like Amazon Business that we were talking about earlier, Dell Premier as well. Or also, what something that comes up a lot in the quoting process is, you may be quoting, we'll just say a simple laptop, 2 weeks ago. It was in stock at Ingram. A lot of things happen in 2 weeks. So when you go to place that
True.
order, you can see on one screen, again, what your pricing and availability is for each of the distributors that you work with. So if it's out of stock at Ingram, maybe it's, $1 more by going to TD Synnex, but they have it in stock so they can have it to you next day. So you can swap on the fly and then place that electronic order automatically there. And then we track it all the way through fulfillment. So we can see, as soon as it gets shipped, we get the shipping information as well as any serial numbers and whatnot as well that come through even before you receive the items from your distributor.
I mean, you've just taken all of the manual steps that everybody forgot to do because there's like
Yep.
30 steps here, right?
Yep.
Like by the time you start from, oh, my customer's interested in something too, hey, it actually showed up. There's literally 30 manual steps you would have to take in order to get to the point where it's like, well, when's it going to show up? Where's the tracking number? Did you, and on the beginning part, it's, hey, did I put the right description in? Is there a picture in the thing? Like
Yeah.
it's amazing, how you've basically taken big company workflow
Yep.
and made it into something that basically a one-man shop could use.
Well, there's a reason we've been around for 30 years. And we keep evolving.
Yes.
And then we're also, just to put a little dig into some of the other companies out there, we're the only self-funded quoting tool in the MSP space right now. So just putting that out there.
Huh.
Huh.
That right?
Yeah,
You might be right.
I
I'm,
might
think-
be.
I'm thinking through. You're right.
Yeah.
Wow. It's amazing how, like, well, first time I met you was what? 2010, 2011. It's been a long time,
It's been a
Brian.
long time. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, the amount of things that have happened in this space in that time, it's like you need to, like, you almost need to have a historian go back and track all this stuff, man. Like, a lot of movement, a lot of mergers, a lot of acquisitions, a lot of investors in and out, people come and go. But you guys really have been a staple there the whole time. There's something to be said for, and it's kind of near and dear to my heart. It's not very often, especially these days, that you're bootstrapping from zero. Like, everybody seems to start something and take money right away.
Exactly.
And that comes with hooks, strings, right? Like, something has to give when you're using somebody else's money. But 30 years, you guys are like, nope, we're going to do it the old fashioned way. We're just going to build a company and slowly but surely build customers over time. And, you know, I like that story, actually. I prefer it.
Thank you.
I mean, like, because I feel a lot better that, like, I know where the position of the company is and I'm not waiting for another shoe to drop, right? Like,
Exactly.
not to knock the entire business model of the investment, but,
Right.
like, the second you hear somebody's taking investment money, round A, B, C, whatever, or they've been acquired, first thing you think of is pricing's going to change, terms are going to change, product's not going to, it's basically what you see now is where it's going to be for a long time. It's not going to grow, and the people are going to leave. And, like,
Right.
immediately, like, that seems to be the status quo of what happens when all of that goes down. But it feels good to, like, not have to worry about that in every category, because it's a lot of them right now.
Exactly. I mean, I think the biggest thing for me is the people leaving,
Yeah.
because that you just keep seeing that over and over again, and I think for me and also for you, it's kind of weird too because we've been with the same company for how long?
Long time.
I mean, I've been with Quotewerks for 23 years now, so
Well, you beat me, Brian, because we didn't start the company 23 years ago. But yeah, I
well,
got you.
I'm the dinosaur then.
No, hey, there's also something to be said for, like, the average, like, you're basically flipping jobs at this point in the workforce every 3 years. I mean,
Right.
that's the average. It's about the tenure of the average NFL player, minus the ones that we all care about, right? Like,
Right.
but my point is, like, so in 10 years, like, think about, you're at like 3 point whatever jobs, you know what I mean? And
Yep.
that's if you can stick it, right? I would say that there's some people that have to work multiple jobs right now because one job don't cut it, right? And so I'm sure that messes with the numbers. But 23 years, man, I mean, that's a career.
Yeah. It definitely has. I mean, one of the things that's nice though is, I had a career before coming into Quoteworks. So, I was in software development back then, and then also I was a VAR myself. So that definitely led into very nicely into the Quoteworks realm because it allows me to speak to MSPs and even the few traditional VARs that are still left. Um,
They're out there.
they are out there, but able to speak to them from a person that's been in their shoes, as opposed to somebody that's fresh out of college that has no idea what an MSP actually is.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, don't have you gotten bored? I would say probably not, because you're still doing this, right? But, like, I mean, that's one of the things people are like, all right, we need a new challenge, right? So obviously this thing's keeping you busy.
Well, I mean, for me, it's a little bit different. I have a very unique role at Quoteworks because I've been with the company for so long. I kind of dabble here and there wherever I want. Like I started off in tech support, I moved into sales, and then went into training, implementations, software development and business development. And right now, the biggest thing that I like doing, and really for the last 10 years, what I've been doing is just going to events, talking to customers, finding out what they need in their sales process. And then what's unique about me is I'm able to take the things that they're saying and then either implement it myself or tell somebody else how to implement it. And then I
Mhm.
can come back and work with that customer to show them, hey, we were actually listening and I solved your problem. So that's my favorite thing to do.
I
And I
like
keep
that.
doing that over and over again. And that's really what keeps me going. In the at least with the
People.
company, and then the people here are really great too. So
That's awesome. You guys started doing your own, maybe it was like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, like your own like kind of boot camp style event. I think you do it once a year.
Yeah, we were doing an in-person one. Actually, the last in-person event we had was right as COVID started, like a
Ugh.
month before COVID hit.
Ugh.
So we were doing like we had, I think that was our fourth one. And right now we're kind of at the point where we're doing a lot of virtual events, but we're not doing as many in-person ones just because, I mean, I don't know if you know, but in-person events take a lot to throw.
Yes,
I don't know if you know anything about
Yeah,
that, George.
Jen, who's behind the scenes, would tell you that she thinks you're right. I don't know. Just a few events.
Yeah.
I lost track. Jen, you are correct. Yeah, actually, it was funny. So Jen went to Nashville, I think last week, and then Michelle and our team went to Dallas. Me and Alec were in Denver. So we literally were like scoping out 3 cities at a time. And I was like, man, this is the first time we've had this multi-threaded. We're on the road trying to calculate things, at the same time. That was pretty cool.
Nice.
But yes, event planning is not necessarily easy.
No, no, and it's a whole other job that is not in my job description. So
Ah,
we're-
there you go. You're like, that's somebody else's issue.
exactly. So
Well,
yeah, we're bringing somebody up now, and hopefully they'll be able to start running events in person soon. So
I'm hopeful that you guys will bring back your in-person thing. It looked like it was building, by the way. I thought
it
like
was, it was. I mean, I think the last one that we had either 150 or 180 people.
that's awesome.
And it was a decent size. I mean, it wasn't massive, but I mean, it was a great event. It was we do things that are a little bit different. We actually have no vendors at our events. I know. I know. So it is all about the education and just community building.
Community is such a great place, man. This community, there's a lot of communities out there, but
Yeah.
it's great. And I'm at a peer group this week in San Diego, and I think the sun maybe came out for 2 seconds because it's been raining all week, and it will continue to, I'm told. But um, when you put a lot of smart people in the room, man, like you start to really feel like they take down the walls, right? They're not worried about like I'm gonna lose business to this guy over here or whatever. There's some really good strategy sessions that happen, right? And like
Yeah.
you just don't get to do that probably as regularly as you want to. That's probably why you love the event so much, Brian. Let's be honest, right? Like you're not going to be able to get most of this out on an email.
No, definitely not. And there's a lot of things. I mean, we can have this conversation, virtually over Zoom, but it's not the same thing as shaking hands and having that immediate reaction to whatever that last person said. So yeah, I mean, it is there's something to be said about in-person events and working together and collaborating and just hearing how other people do things and learning from their mistakes, and they can learn from yours.
I mean, that's how you make your product better, right?
Exactly.
I mean,
Or business or whatever it may be.
service, business, idea, solution, or how about just you, the human being?
That's very true.
There you go. So speaking of events, we know you're not doing your own right now.
Right.
So where do people get to see you this year? Like
Uh,
the events you circled so far for 24?
so this year we'll be at 3 or 4 different ASCII events. We
Okay.
tend to like those events. Again, going back to community, I like the fact that they are smaller events, so you can actually have more of those types of conversations. We've got DattoCon coming up that we'll be doing this year, and then IT Nation Connect as well. Beyond that, there's probably going to be more, but those are the ones that we've locked down. And then there's a few MSP Initiative events that we'll be attending as well.
Oh, is that right? I remember a blog article long ago, Brian. Well,
I just spoke the truth.
I think it was the very, very, very first large party we pulled off.
Yes. Yeah, that was I probably shouldn't have written that, but it got a lot of attention.
For sure. But you know what? I don't regret that at all. That was the beginning of a very long series of craziness.
That it was. That it
The
was.
good old blue martini over there in Orlando.
Which is right down the street from our office.
You know what's funny? For as many times as I've been to Orlando, actually, I'm going to be in Orlando in like 2 weeks for Zero Trust World for Threat Locker.
Oh, yeah.
For as many times as I've been in Orlando, I've never been to your office.
Stop by. Our office is very nice these days.
Really?
Yes, it is. We moved about a year and a half ago. We had been in the same office building for almost 17 years. So
Wow.
that was not the greatest office, but our new one, this is the place to be. So
Upgraded the digs. Okay.
yes,
All right.
definitely.
Well, I will maybe I'll drop you a line this time. Yeah, I think it's only been, 10 plus years. Might be time.
Might be.
Yeah, just a little bit. Um, and actually for the first time this year, I feel like every other event isn't in Florida. I feel like all of a sudden it's still in there. It's just not like, hey, I'm renting a short-term condo in Florida.
Right. Right. Yeah, Jen and I were just talking about how it's no longer Vegas is no longer the place that everybody is doing their events. Thank goodness.
Can we talk about Vegas events for a second? Because you got me on it, man.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I know that they happen. I know like Rite of Boom's in Vegas around the corner.
Yep.
That's the one like right at the top of my head. It's like for obvious reasons, I avoid the Vegas events, to be honest. Because like number one, it's no longer artificially cheap to fly into Vegas. Like it used to
Right.
be like $150, $175. It's like I saw a ticket was like $500.
Yeah.
I'm like, for what?
I know. And then the casino hotel rooms are still expensive too, on top of it. Unless you're getting comped, but that's a whole other story.
Yeah, I got you. And then like, you always get the Vegas effect. Like the Super Bowl's in Vegas, right? Like we know what's gonna happen. Like you may like I hope if you bought $10,000 Super Bowl ticket, you show up to the place, right, and watch the game. But could be not could you could get lost in Vegas, right? But like how many people don't actually make it to the event?
Exactly.
So like I don't know. Vegas is I understand why people do events in Vegas. I guess it's like for the event holder, it's better from a costing standpoint, but yeah, I think everybody's day limit in Vegas differs. What's yours? 1, 2, 3.
I think it depends. The first time I'd say it's 4. The second time I go, it's like 2. And then at that point, I'm done.
Yeah, I got it. 2 days. That's about right. It's
Yeah,
enough time to get in and not lose your bank account and get out.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I agree. And then the other thing with Vegas, last thought is like, if you ever go to an event in Vegas and like they're doing it in like whatever, hotel, casino, from your room to like the event space, I swear is like 2 miles.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's like, oh, I forgot something in my room. I'm not going back for that. Like you're stuck. You're out for the day.
Exactly.
Crazy.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I was talking about like I like the ASCII events because they're in small hotels. It's great. You
Yeah.
just go up
But
during the break, you can get some work done, come back. It's great.
100%, man. It's crazy.
Oh,
Um, so yeah, I mean, obviously, DattoCon, I think we were actually just talking to the Datto Kaseya team earlier. That they're going to be at the Fountain Blue
yep.
on basically South Beach, not basically on South Beach. So that's interesting. And then because they changed venues from last year. Last year was the 3 venue thing that they were doing.
We won't talk about that.
Yeah. We got it. And then and of course IT Nation's still at Shingle Creek, I guess, for another year or two, right?
Right.
So you know what that property looks like. Although my buddy Alec over here keeps telling me about this new Universal Park or something that's supposed to be opening. What do you know about it?
I don't know enough to really talk about that. Unfortunately, we're a Disney family right now, so
Okay.
yeah,
All right. Well,
yeah,
one thing's for sure. Those Disney park tickets keep going up every year, don't they?
they definitely do. Well, the Universal ones are going to go up even higher now.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Uh-oh.
Uh-huh.
News to me.
Uh, just because there's another park doesn't mean it's going to be less expensive to go.
Oh boy. It's like $1,000 to take a family of 4 to the park.
It's ridiculous. I don't know how people do that these days. I really don't.
Well, we all know why people go on these vacation style conferences, right? But it gets expensive.
Yep.
And there's not enough charging stations in Orlando to drive all those electric cars. Did you hear Hertz is dumping their 200,000 electric car fleet?
Wow. Well, you see, everybody's moving to hydrogen now.
have you seen a hydrogen gas station? I haven't. Like, how do
I
you
have
just
no
go to your
idea.
house and take the hose out and put it in? I'm pretty
I,
sure
I
that's not how it
I
works.
don't know. BMW is investing in it, and Honda and somebody else just started working together on a new engine.
Wow. Huh.
So
Water goes, yeah, it's everywhere.
exactly, like
The
right
whole
behind
planet
you.
is covered by it. All good. Um, you know, moving forward into 2024, is there any
Yep.
initiatives that are on your roadmap that like maybe people don't know about that you're working on? I know integrations are a big focus for you,
Yeah.
but what's coming?
So we are focusing on sales tax. I know it's the most exciting thing for everybody,
Oh no.
but I know, but it's becoming more and more important. So we just released a new update that allows us to automatically fix addresses. I know
Huh.
this is going to be really exciting talk here, but so one of the problems that you have with sales tax is you have to have the right zip code, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is with the right zip code is you can have 4 different tax rates in the same zip code.
Wow.
So, and so what we do is we'll automatically fix it. So we'll tell you if you're supposed to have a suite number, because depending on the suite number, it might be a different zip code, even in the same
Huh.
building with the +4.
Wait a minute. The building is splitting a zip code?
Yeah, a +4 zip code. Yeah. Yeah. Um, especially in New York. In New York, you can actually have multiple +4 zip codes on the same building.
Get out of here.
Yeah, it's nuts. But anyways, so we're gonna do the +4 automatically for you, and then that allows us to actually get the true sales tax rate for that location. Um,
Wow.
but that's the first step. But now the next step is the fact that not everything is taxed the same way, right?
Right.
Certain services are taxed differently. Sometimes the service has a tax depending on where you are, sometimes it doesn't. Certain types of products, like in Florida, unfortunately, we have a state sales tax of 6%, and then the county tax of 0.5%, but only up until the first $5,000, and then that goes away.
Hmm.
Um, so there's weird tax rules. So we're doing a lot more with that, because traditionally people would use a service like Avalara, which is a
Yeah.
great service. I'm not knocking it at all. But the problem is it costs thousands of dollars each year to use. So basically, we're rolling that functionality into Quotewerks now, so you don't have to use an Avalara to be able to do that sort of functionality.
Wow.
We do have an integration with Avalara, but so if you do have that, that's great. But we are making it so it's all built in as far as being able to do those types of sales tax rules inside of Quotewerks now.
I mean, that stuff changes on the regular, Brian. What are you gonna do?
I'm aware. I'm aware.
Like they come up with new things to tax like every year.
Yep. So that's kind of the direction we're going. I'm not going to go too much more into that.
It's like,
But
hey, we're gonna add a 1/4% on bananas. And I'm like, okay, cool. That's fantastic. I don't know
yeah,
who's quoting bananas through Codeworks, but I'm sure somebody does it.
you'd be surprised. Basically, we're in every industry except for probably insurance, as far as what we do. The IT space is about a third of our customer base. So we're
Okay.
in almost every industry out there.
I
Both
didn't even
John Liu, the owner of the company, and myself, like I said, we both come from IT backgrounds, so that's why we do really well when talking to the IT community. But we are in every industry out there.
wow, I didn't even realize that. I learned something new today.
There you go.
So anybody can buy Quoteworks. You just go to
Yeah,
quoteworks.com and buy, right?
exactly, exactly.
Oh, so like I didn't even think about that. So like other than IT, what's your like second and third biggest industry focus?
Well, the next one after that is probably going to be like AV, which is really close. I mean, but then after that, we get into like HVAC.
Huh.
And you
Really?
get into other things like we have a company that builds trucks, custom trucks, like wrecker trucks.
Hmm.
You have to configure, okay, what kind of chassis are you going to have? What kind of engine are you going to have? How much weight do you have to be able to haul? That sort of thing. And they use our configurator to build out these massive trucks to quote to their
Wow.
customers. Yeah.
That's crazy. I had no idea, man.
Yeah, I mean, and the cool thing about that is, sometimes we'll add a feature that was specifically for one industry that another industry had never even thought of before, and we're able to then introduce that because of that reason.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah,
It's almost cool when like, back to the whole, hey, we're not, forced to run by the playbook, right? It's like you can listen to people and build stuff fairly quickly if you're, interested in doing that, right?
exactly.
Whereas it's like, hey, we'll get to it later on, and then later on never comes. How many times did people go to the feature request board and then went to die? You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, there were features from the 2010, they never got to it. It's like, yeah, they're probably not going to get to those.
Well, I what gets me is like some of our competitors and their bugs that are on their boards, and they've been there since 2010 and they still aren't fixed yet. But yeah. So I mean, speaking of feature boards, that's actually something that we really like. We try to get our community to use more and more of, because it allows us as developers. I'm one of the developers here, as you kind of guessed. So yeah, exactly. So we use that as a way to actually ask questions, believe it or not, of our customers on the feature request. So we can actually have dialogue as far as how things are done and why. Because we might have one person asking for a feature, but we just don't understand, well, how does this actually work? What do you want? So now we can actually have that dialogue with the customer as well, and have other customers bring in as well.
That's awesome. I love that. Collaborative, man.
Mhm.
Collaborative. So what do you want to see coming out of IT MSP land for this year? I mean, it's still early on. It's like beginning of February. What's your prognostication?
I've been in this industry long enough not to know not to do that,
Okay.
because in 3 months it's going to change,
Just like that.
just like that.
I don't
Exactly.
know. I don't think it's that crazy.
Really?
I mean, listen, things change, but a lot of things stay the same.
Yeah. I don't know. I think the biggest thing for me is really just going to be, who's going to gobble up who next. Um,
That's fair.
I mean, that's the one thing that is constant in the IT space these days.
That's fair.
So that's going to be my question. I guess if
Well,
I say one
listen,
thing.
I'm not in, like I hear things just because we all talked,
Yep.
and different people are in different places of the journey, but um, like not getting political, it's an election year. That
Yeah.
changes the way the market functions, right? Like that, like historically, if you go back and talk to finance people, they'll tell you they view this year differently than most, regular normal, years. That's number one. Number two, hey, the interest rate, what's going to happen with that? That's going to change, how
Yep.
people, and act the cost of capital, right? Like,
Right.
what does that mean? And then the the market really never got back to the kind of like it kind of was good 2019 going into 2020, like right before it turned 2021, like right then was like the drop off point, right? Like December of 2020, January of 2021. Like if you hadn't gotten your thing done by then, like all of the valuations like didn't go in the direction you wanted them to, right?
Right.
So it seems to be slowly creeping back, but like it's definitely not where it was.
Right.
So like, I'm curious to see between the interest rates, how the markets react to this particular, election year. And then like, do you see the valuation percentages start to creep back up to, like the 2019, 2020 times, right? Like I'll call it pre-pandemic, although
Right.
leaked into pandemic times. Because like, I know you and I both know that the big VCPE guys, they're on a clock and they may
Yeah.
be overtime, right? So like maybe they're forced to do something, maybe not at the peak of the market, but they're out of time, right?
Right.
But then there's other people who are like, nope, I can afford to wait. I'll let everything, I'll play the waiting game and let everything bounce back so I can get my value back, right? So, I'm talking in generalities here, but this is how it works.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious to see what by the time we get to December, January, this upcoming year, I would be curious to see where things stand. But yeah, I mean, again, not to get super crazy, that November November election's gonna it's gonna drive things in one direction or another.
That is for sure. I mean, the other thing too is, I mean, there's so much uncertainty between what's going on in Europe and then the Middle East as well that, throw that in there.
Worse, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? It's definitely going to be an interesting year though.
There's a lot of SaaS companies in the space that come out of, Israel and different parts of Europe. I mean,
Yep. Yeah.
it's crazy. Like, you really can build a company from anywhere.
Well, and that's the beautiful thing about IT.
It's work from anywhere. Like the people
Exactly.
behind us, right? Uh, Brian, it's always great catching up, man. I'm sure I'm going to see you at DataCon, at IT
Yep.
Nation, maybe at an MSP Initiative event near you, and maybe in your office in a couple of weeks when I'm in Orlando, because that might be overdue. So
That would
stay
be
tuned.
awesome.
Drop you a line there. Where can people find more information about Quotewerks, maybe the MSP part of Quotewerks, and like if they wanted to reach out and get more information?
Yeah, so the best thing to do is just go to quotewerks.com. And that's works with an E, as you can see in my little background there. But as far as anything that's like IT specific, I mean, you can go right to our website. It's all talking IT stuff. I mean, really, there's nothing that's shrouded. Oh, you're IT, you got to go over here. We're in every industry, but we make it really easy for everybody to be able to find what they need on our
Oh
website.
no, the HVAC guys, you got to make sure they're okay.
Hey, the convergence, man.
I got it. I got it. I'm gonna start putting in air conditioners. You never know.
You never know. Exactly. Very good. Well,
Hey,
thank you very much, George.
thanks, Brian. Talk soon, my friend.
All right. Talk to you later.
All right, guys. This session was recorded. You'll find it at mspinitiative.com under sessions or on your podcatcher or on YouTube. Make sure to check out all the stuff we're doing this year. Hopefully, you'll see Brian at an event near you. We'll catch you on the next ones, Tuesdays, Thursdays, usually 1 o'clock Eastern time and 24/7 online. Catch you guys. See ya.